It's time for another episode of the Joshcast. And how am I feeling today? How's the Joshcast doing? I'm frustrated. Frustrated today. The bit that I'm trying to write to do with my obsessive compulsive disorder is it's not going well. What's odd is that I'll get up, there's no jokes, it has no jokes, because I'm basically talking about one of the obsessive compulsive rituals that I do is I visualize myself blowing up imaginary, hopefully imaginary, knock on wood, brain tumors with imaginary force fields. And here's a little insight into this bit that is not a bit. For a while, I wanted to change it to mind lasers because I thought that would be funnier. But then I said to myself, no, you're an artist. You have to tell the truth. And the truth is they are force fields, not mind lasers. And I don't know, maybe the artistic integrity is what's causing the bit to die. But here's the other fascinating thing about it. I'll go up on stage and I'll basically explain it, and it won't get any laughs, and we'll have a protracted moment of awkwardness, which could also be the title of another stand-up special. And I'll get laughs off of just saying, yeah, this is awkward, chuckles. And then I get off stage, and then twice now, comedians have come up to me and said, that's relatable. Because all the other comedians who are just as batshit crazy as I am are probably doing the same thing. So it's it's only going to work in front of certain audiences, namely other people who are crazy. It's interesting. I call myself crazy, and then I feel a twinge of, well, that's not true. Although somebody says insanity, I've heard insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting the same results, and that is what this obsessive compulsive thing is. So technically, I guess I am a little insane. But being called crazy, calling myself crazy, I think I'm hurting my feelings a little bit. And I feel like I'm insulting people who also have this condition to just write it off as, oh, you're crazy. It's like you get fracture your pelvis and you go, oh, you're just broken. I think part of the problem with this is that, first of all, it's true that I do this, but it's so unbelievably ridiculous that I'm not sure the audience's head is wrapping around it. It's like, what is he doing? What? He's what? So I don't even know if I'm explaining it properly. That's number one. And then number two, I think the bigger problem is there's no jokes attached to it at this point. That's the thing with the punch. You got to go somewhere with the punchline. And I don't know where to go. Once you've gone to Crazy Town, like usually, the punchline, the exaggeration is in the punchline. But I'm not sure how much more exaggerated I can get with this. I don't know how much crazier it can be. Well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe the way to make it, at one point is it too crazy, is if in the visualization in the end, after I blow myself up in an attempt to save myself, yes, because let me talk through the entire visualization. I know I've done this on other podcasts. I'm going to do it again. I got to talk through this. So I'm terrified I'm going to have a brain tumor. So the thought of, oh God, I'm going to die, comes up. It's not literally that, by the way. It's not literally my brain going, oh God, I'm going to die. It's just this general anxiety, the feeling of anxiety in the pit of my stomach. So I envision, this imaginary tumor. I visualize it. And then I visualize this force field engulfing it and removing it from my body without invasive medical procedures. Maybe that's a detail that's helpful. So it's a futuristic kind of healing process. So my fantasy is better healthcare, which is the craziest thing I've probably said all so far. And so I scoop it out of my head. I don't know why I don't use a transporter. I actually, in some of my more recent obsessive-compulsive visualizations, I have used a transporter, which is way easier. Just beam it into space and blow it up. I don't know why it took me so long to think of that. But I scoop it out, and then I transport it all the way to Antarctica. Why? Because it's they far enough away from me that I guess the explosion won't have lasting repercussions. There's no scientific. I say I'm trying to be scientifically accurate, but there's no basis in science on this. This is crazy town. So I detonate it with, I guess, a thought that says detonate it now. It doesn't say detonate it now. I mentally detonate it, and it blows up. But then the explosion. I'm trying to figure out at what point I lose the audience when I'm explaining this. But then the explosion, probably at the very beginning, I think. Hey, my name is Josh. Anyway, the explosion comes back through the trail that the force field left, because when I was transporting it, it left this energy trail. So it comes back through the energy, and it hits my head, and it blows up my head, and then it blows up my body, and it blows up my legs, but it leaves my shoes intact, which feels like a very Warner Brothers cartoon kind of move, kind of a Woody Woodpecker move at the end. So at least like I'm crazy, but with a sense of humor. And in order for me to feel better, I have to visualize that happening. And then briefly, I feel better. But I have to literally visualize each step of that process. That's a lot. And it feels cliche of me to say in a weird way. Or kind of it's obvious. But yes, that's a lot to throw at somebody. I can throw it at a therapist. They're trained to deal with this. Oh, well, clearly this is obsessive compulsive disorder. And you need to do this, this, and this to help. But when I explain it to a normal person, or a person who's pretending to be normal, they don't know how to respond, as no normal human would. You need to have clinical you need to have 8 years of training to be able to have a conversation with me. That is how insane this is. Here's a question. Do I wish that I didn't do this? Do I wish that I had a brain that didn't do this? That I didn't worry about this? And I genuinely don't know the answer to that question because, and I learned this from an episode of Chicago Hope, that a doctor with Tourette's. And the other doctor is talking about the doctor with Tourette's, and he's saying sometimes, it's two sides of the same coin with some of these, mental things. And that, maybe the obsessive compulsive disorder that I have is connected to an attention to detail that helps me write jokes, for instance. Although, if it was working better, I would have come up with a punchline sooner. But then again, I was diagnosed with mild obsessive compulsive disorder, which means it takes me longer to solve the mysteries if I'm an obsessive compulsive police officer. Which is not a joke I want to tell, because I've heard another comedian who's obsessive compulsive talk about hating seeing obsessive compulsive police officers on TV as a gimmick. And I don't want to step on this other obsessive compulsive person's terrain, which in and of itself feels obsessive compulsive. This is layers upon layers of complexity of neuroses. And it's not even 10 in the morning yet. So that is my day. That is my day. Is it every day? No. I did notice that it seems to get worse when I'm about to watch a movie. And the more excited I am to watch the movie, the worse it gets. So it's almost like I've got a built-in, a built-in sense of destroying joy. That seems to be activated. But, yeah, so this is this thing I do. I'm trying to figure out how to make it funny. And this another thing, too. I hate it when people try to help. I really do. And I know I shouldn't be, because comedians give each other tags. I hate when people give me tags. I hate it. I hate it. Because for me, the joy of stand-up is finding the joke. So if somebody gives me the joke, I don't feel like I'm a stand-up anymore. Now I feel like I'm just an actor and I'm doing someone else's line. So that's my thing. I don't know. Maybe is it ego? Yes, absolutely it's ego. But it's also not ego. I want it to come from me. I want to be the one to write it. So don't give me tags, please. Thank you. I want you to let me fail in a vacuum. Which then leads to the question, well, what if I fail and I keep failing and somebody has the thought of a good punchline and then 2 months later I come up with a punchline? Well, then who came up with it first? That is literally going to cause me grief all day today. Probably not all day. Probably just for the rest of the podcast. Yeah, I wish I didn't have it. I wish I could still have all my strengths, but not have this OCD stuff. So I wish I could be, the blade of people, I guess. I wish I didn't have to go through this mentally. I wish that I didn't. I wish that if a bad thing happens, I want to be able to not freak out about it. And not, be unable to sleep because I'm worried. I wish I had that ability. To be a sociopath. That's what I wish. That is so what I wish. But I am not. I am not that person. There might be a way of getting there. I'm not sure what that way is. There might be a way of getting there. I don't know. I don't know what that way is. And I wish I didn't have to feel guilt. This is getting depressing. And then I wonder if, this is, the mental masturbation part of it. This isn't helping anybody. This isn't funny. But I have this theory that I have to go deep. I have to keep going. I have to keep digging. And the funny will be on the other side of it. After bombing 9,000 times, of course. Because that's how the world works. Yes, I wish I didn't have it. but that I'm afraid to wish that I don't have it, because it's one of those things where if I say I wish I don't have it, then I feel like God will go, okay, I'll take it away, but also all of your strengths, and then you'll be even worse. So when I say I wish I don't have this, I want to make sure that the universe hears, I don't want you to make things worse. I would rather take this and keep this than have it get worse. I just want to make that clear. I don't know the best way to reach the universe. Should I email this? Should I write it in a letter and then burn it with incense? I don't know. But I just want to make that clear. I do also wish. I wish I didn't have to worry. I wish I could be the guy who wears the Hawaiian shirt. They never seem to worry. How do I know? They're wearing a Hawaiian shirt. If you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt, there's got to be a part of you that thinks it's going to be okay. There's got to be. Can anybody pull off the Hawaiian shirt? I'm not sure. No offense, by the way, against the indigenous people of Hawaii. I'm really trying. In fact, I have a feeling that's kind of shitting on you, right? I wish I could be that. I wish I could be calm, cool, and collected. The best I can do is sometimes I can fake being calm, cool, and collected, and a few people buy it. And the people who buy it because they are closed off to the world. Now, if you'll excuse me, I had wings last night, and I'm paying for it today. And I knew that was going to happen, but I had a Jones. I was jonesing for wings. I've been very good about cutting out carbs, so give this to me. That's all, just today. Give me my wings.